Welcome to an ATRC Counts Plus webinar. This training provides guidance on how to record and report data on people walking and bicycling using marked and designated crossings. Details for projects may vary, and the individual judgment and discretion may apply for each project. The material you'll need for the data collection for the use of designated crossings are recording sheets for both the pre-installation and post-installation, pens and clipboards, a measuring wheel, and optionally a camera or video recording device. The level of difficulty is 4 stars based upon the materials required and the staff resources. Why are designated crossings important? Marked crosswalks increase awareness to drivers to expect people crossing. Designated crossings improve visibility for people walking or biking while crossing the street. And appropriately designed marked crosswalks with safety enhancements encourage people walking to use the crossing instead of crossing mid-block where injuries tend to be more serious. The use of designated crossing tool evaluates pedestrian behavior before and after the installation of crossing enhancements. It's used to measure the effectiveness of crosswalk design and its influence on pedestrian or bicycle or driver behavior. And it provides insights on how to design or modify marked crosswalks. For data collection, 1 to 2 staff members are required for either in-person observations or for the viewing of recorded observations. And the method is to conduct counts manually, or there are 2 methods: to conduct counts manually in person in real time, or to use a recording device to track pedestrian and cyclist movement and record the data subsequent to the taking down of the video. The data collector will need to gather pedestrian or cyclist counts twice, before and after the installation of the crossing improvement. What you need for data collection include materials for the in-person count, the recording sheet, which is provided on the ATRC Counts Plus website. There's a pre-installation and a post-installation sheet. They're the same, record the same measures, pens and clipboards, and a measuring wheel. For video recording, you would install a camera at a location permitted by the jurisdiction you're collecting the data in, and a measuring wheel. Select a day and time with clear weather conditions and during daylight hours between the hours of 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. We also encourage you, though, if your project location and the safety improvements you're trying to make are really related to a specific time of day outside these hours, please go ahead and use those time frames that are applicable to your project issues, and use that same time frame both for the before and after crosswalk installation. So first, some information about the in-person counts, what we call method 1. Print 1 recording sheet for each crossing that will be observed. Prepare the recording sheet for that crossing, measuring out the crossing area and the crossing zone, sketching the crossing configuration. So when you go out in the field, you have your full attention on the crosswalk that will be observed and the people who will be using it. You'll be coding pedestrians or cyclists who arrive in groups as one unit of observation, group pedestrians crossing together as a single observation, and mark them as compliant or non-compliant based on the designations I'll share with you in a moment. Repeat steps 2 through 5 when conducting post-installation counts with a clean data recording sheet. And every time you go out to collect the data, record at least 50 observations for a large enough sample size that you can do some statistical comparisons. It is fine to collect the observations over multiple times, again, staying within the same time windows for the before and after. In thinking about how to code the observations of people going across the street, we indicate a non-compliant crossing is observed when a cyclist or pedestrian crosses within the crossing area at the proper crossing time. You might ask, what are the outside and improper crossing times? And those would be marked as non-compliant. This is when a cyclist or a pedestrian or a group of people crosses outside of the crossing area. That is for most intersections, that's the logical extension of a sidewalk across the street. if that area is not marked, and in the marked crosswalk if it is marked. Another way a user would be described as non-compliant if they cross without adhering to the signal timing. In other words, they leave the curb after the pedestrian signal is indicated it's the appropriate time to leave the curb during the don't walk or the clearance interval. And other unsafe crossing behaviors can also be observed as non-compliant. If you're going to be collecting the data using a video recording device, the device will have to be installed in accordance with your jurisdiction's approval authority. 1 or 2 trained staff will install the video recording device at a secure, tamper-proof location that can observe the full crossing. A tamper-proof location, it typically has to be high enough up that it won't be moved or stolen during the observation period. Print 1 recording sheet for each crossing that will be observed. Prepare that recording sheet with the project name, whether it's a pre or post installation, a time frame, and the date. Ensure that you know about the area of the crossing by measuring the crossing length and width to calculate the crossing area in full, and sketch the crossing configuration. You'll set the camera, it will observe data over the time period that you have it installed, and your recordings of the observations will happen after you take the camera down and bring them back to a place where you're comfortable looking at the observations and recording them. And while you're looking at the observations, you'll be preparing the data sheet first by recording the coder names and the start and stop times on the videos. You'll code pedestrians or cyclists the same way as if you were collecting the data in person. Again, people arriving and departing on their own would be a single observation, as well as people who are arriving in clusters and departing into the intersection at the same time as a group. You'll mark them as compliant or non-compliant, depending upon how they use the area designated for the depending upon how they use the crossing. Again, a non-compliant crossing is one where a person or group of people crosses outside of the crossing area. They cross without adhering to the signal timing, or they exhibit other unsafe crossing behaviors. If none of those behaviors are observed, the person is marked as compliant. Collect 50 observations from the recordings in the same way you would for the in-person observations. So after the data have been collected in the field is the time to type in, to come back to the computer and the Excel sheet, which you can download from the ATRC Counts Plus website. Type in the information to any cells that are highlighted in light yellow. Record the total counts in the behavior section starting on row 20 of the pre-installation or post-installation recording sheets. Paste in an image or drawing of the crossing configuration which you drew in the cover sheet, and record your agency's name, your jurisdiction's name, and the city in the data summary sheet. The data summary sheet will provide a % change in compliant crossing behavior by way of the functions that are already embedded in the spreadsheet, so there's no need for you to do any summary calculations. Those will be created for you after you enter the data. We're really grateful to you for trying out this Counts Plus metric and of the use of designated crossings, and we hope when you've completed the tool, the Excel spreadsheet, that you will upload the summary sheet via the Smart Sheets on the Active Transportation Resource Center's website. Thanks so much for your time, and if you have questions, you may contact us at any time.